And what might your name be, young lad? Oh ho, so you're called Game Guy 53. Wait a minute, are you really Game Guy 53? Holy f***ing smokes! Can I get an autograph, please?
Pokémon Legends Arceus has been out for over 3 months now, and the general reception of the game seems to be mostly positive, and for good reason. It's the first time in a while that a major Pokémon spin-off game has attempted to take the original tried-and-true mainline formula and create a fresh, new experience with it. The last time we got Pokémon spin-offs that tried to play around with the formula like this was back in the GameCube days when Nintendo gave us Pokémon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness. I actually have a whole video planned out about those games for the future, so make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. But today we're mainly talking about Pokémon Legends Arceus, and naturally with the positive reception of this game, it raises some questions, like how does this new approach to Pokémon stack up to the existing mainline entries in the series like the recent Pokémon Sword and Shield and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl? And moving forward, are any of these new features introduced in Legends Arceus worth incorporating into future mainline entries? By the end of this video, you'll know my answers to these questions, and maybe I'll even inspire some of you to try this game out. To start things off, let's talk a bit about how the story and the framework for this game are a bit different from what we normally get in mainline Pokemon games. As most of you watching this video probably know, in most Pokemon games the story is fairly straightforward. We play as a young Pokemon trainer who goes out on a journey to complete their Pokédex by catching every single Pokemon in the region, and to become their region's Pokemon champion by defeating all 8 gym leaders and winning the Pokemon League, all while also stopping an evil crime group from wreaking havoc on the world. This is true of literally every mainline Pokemon game. The Pokémon Legends Arceus story is nothing like that. The fact that you get to pick a starter Pokemon from the professor is about the only similarity story-wise. Of course, I chose Cyndaquil because, fun fact, Gen 2 is my favorite Pokemon generation. Other than the starters though, this Pokemon story is on a path of its own, and that mostly has to do with the different time period it's set in. Most Pokemon games launch you into a present-day Pokemon world where the relationship between Pokemon and humans is well established. The groundwork has been laid for the journey your character is about to embark on, and we know exactly what to expect out of it. The Legends Arceus story starts out with our character falling out of the space-time rift into the Hisui region, which is a distant past version of the Sinnoh region from Diamond and Pearl. The inhabitants of the Hisui region clearly don't have nearly as much knowledge about Pokemon as the characters we've met in some of our other, more modern adventures. The professor you meet right off the bat is utterly shocked at your advanced ability to catch Pokemon, and most of the residents in Jubilife City, the town we have crash landed in, are deathly afraid of wild Pokemon. Within the first 5 minutes of the game, it's abundantly clear to the player that this is a far departure from what we're used to seeing in other mainline Pokemon titles. Back when this game was first announced and we found out that our character would sort of be this time traveler, I was a bit worried about how that might affect the storytelling in this game, because time travel can be a little overdone in games and movies and might make for a confusing mess of a story. But in the context of this game, it actually makes perfect sense. Why would a player who had experienced other mainline Pokemon titles not know anything about catching or training Pokemon? The main character in this game being from the future, or rather the modern day Pokemon timeline, is a direct representation of the players experiencing this past timeline, because the fact is, we as players have caught and trained and lived in harmony with Pokemon through the other games already. We, the players, are truly represented through this time-traveling main character in a way that is actually incredibly meta when you think about it. Of course, falling out of an interdimensional rift in time has its in-game repercussions of its own, as our arrival isn't the only weird occurrence in the Hisui region. For starters, the characters in this game eat potato mochi for every single meal. This rift in time has caused some of the noble Pokemon in the region to go into these violent frenzies. The noble Pokemon are these majestic Hisuian forms of some Pokemon you may recognize from past titles like Clevor and Arcanine, who the people of the region look up to as these sorts of protectors, almost like divine, godlike beings. Naturally, since we are the only character in this timeline that has any competent Pokemon skills whatsoever, it's up to us to quell these beasts. Rather than being structured around gym battles like the mainline games, the Pokemon Legends Arceus story is structured around taming each of the 5 powerful noble Pokemon in the region. Each noble Pokemon battle is like a boss battle of sorts, but I'll touch more on that when we dive into the gameplay mechanics. The story though, being as unique as it is, doesn't really feel like the main draw of this game, which isn't much of a surprise when it comes to Pokemon. Inside of the main framework of being a time-traveling Pokemon genius sent to save the region from frenzied beasts, this, there is some lore to latch onto, like the fact that the team we become a part of is sort of this prehistoric version of Team Galaxy, who if you've played Diamond and Pearl you'll know eventually develops into the evil bad guys that need to be stopped. You can even dress your character up in the modern day Team Galaxy uniform. That's kinda cool. There's also a feud between these Diamond and Pearl clans who are trying to coexist within the region. I never really fully understood what they were in dispute over. Was it land, lifestyle, Pokemon philosophy, favorite type of mochi? Honestly, I really don't care because instead of trying to figure that out, I was way too focused on the absolute best part of this game, discovering and catching new wild Pokemon. The gameplay is where Pokemon Legends Arceus really shines. It revamps the Pokemon catching mechanics in such a perfect way. In traditional Pokemon games, we of course have to walk through the tall grass until we randomly encounter a wild Pokemon, and then load into the entirely separate battle screen to battle it and then finally catch it. This whole process of finding and catching Pokemon after engaging in a battle with them can be a bit of a grind depending on who you're trying to catch. In the more recent entries, we of course got the wild area in Grand Underground, which was the first time we saw wild Pokemon roaming their habitat, but we still had to enter into a separate battle screen to catch them upon encountering them. Cut to Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is pretty much how I imagined it would actually be to catch Pokemon in real life. To catch wild Pokemon, you have to sneak up on them, aim your Pokeball at them, and toss it with the right trigger button. Hitting a Pokemon from behind who hasn't noticed you increases your odds of capturing the Pokemon. You can also increase your odds at capturing a Pokemon by tossing berries to distract the wild Pokemon. While they're chowing down, follow that up with a nice swift Pokeball to the back of the skull. That Bidoof will be yours in no time. Some Pokemon will be a little more aggressive and will notice you creeping around like an absolute freak more easily. These are the ones you're going to have to battle and weaken before you catch. Sending your Pokemon into battles is as seamless as it is to catch a Pokemon. Toss your Pokemon out the same way you would normally throw a Pokeball and a berry, and then boom, you're in battle right away. No separate battle screen needs to load. One cool thing about this battle mechanic is that if more than one wild Pokemon notices you battling, they'll join in and it could turn into a nice little 1v3 before you even realize it. I realize I just explained a lot of the details about catching wild Pokemon, but what you really need to understand from this is just how fluid and satisfying this entire experience is. You can literally catch 2 or 3 Pokemon at once if you're quick on the draw with your Pokeball. It's incredibly addicting to just work your way through a field and try to capture everything you come across. Something to note is that every time you capture a wild Pokemon, your entire party gains experience points whether or not you actually engage in a battle with the Pokemon you just caught. And with how quickly you can capture a large amount of wild Pokemon, this streamlines the experience grinding in a much more efficient manner than I think we've ever experienced in a Pokemon game before. Of course, if we're catching all these wild Pokemon and leveling up our team, we're gonna want to battle with them. The battle system is pretty similar to how it is in the mainline Pokemon games, with a few unique aspects that spice it up for this outing. The main difference here is a new gimmick where your Pokemon can master their moves and use them in either an agile or strong manner. The agile attacks are faster and weaker, but you might be able to get in more than one hit before your opponent has a chance to move once. The strong attacks are much more powerful than normal attacks, but you might be sacrificing a turn if you don't manage to one-hit KO your opponent with them. Something that's new and comes to us as a result of these strong and agile attacks is the turn order that you can see on the right side of the screen during battle. Here you can see the order in which the next several turns are going to occur, and you can see how using agile and strong moves will end up affecting the turn order. I think these new agile and strong moves are a nice addition, but much like Mega Evolutions, Dynamaxing, and Z moves, I do suspect that they're a one-time gimmick and we probably won't be seeing them again in future iterations of Pokemon. Perhaps the most important addition to the battle system is the fact that we can actually walk around the battlefield with our character in the middle of the battle now, which is something I know fans have been asking for since the Game Boy days. I could just walk right up to the opposing trainer and stand next to them as our Pokemon go at it. Or, if I'm feeling real ballsy, I could walk into the middle of the Pokemon and take a Typhlosion Flamethrower straight to the face. One major complaint I do have about this game actually comes as a result of how much fun the battle system is, and that is that there just aren't enough trainer battles. This makes sense when you consider the setting of the game. In this timeline, no one knows what the f they're doing with Pokemon, so why would there be a ton of fully fledged Pokemon trainers for us to battle? But I like the battle system and the way this game functions overall, so by the time the credits rolled, I didn't feel like my battle itch was really scratched. This also contributes to how easy the game ends up being as a whole. Without skilled Pokemon trainers to challenge in this timeline, there's obviously no Pokemon League or Elite Four to battle in the end, so there's not really a grand in-game way to test the strength of the team you've put together over the course of your playthrough. Sure, there are a few story battles, but they're also incredibly incredibly easy, and those trainers only ever have one or at most two Pokemon. With the amount of time we spend catching our Pokemon in the wild in this game, you would think there'd be a better way for us to actually use them once we have them. As I had mentioned before, the traditional gym battle system has been replaced by these noble frenzy boss battles, and honestly, they're pretty well executed for what they are. They combine the Pokemon catching mechanics with the new battle system, and they manage to weave these two gameplay elements together in a really neat way. In order to calm the noble Pokemon, we have to toss balls of their favorite food at them in these little bags. In the game, they're referred to as these bombs. This is done in the same way that you would throw Pokeballs to capture wild Pokemon, except in this case, the wild Pokemon is giant, yellow, and ravaging, trying to attack you. While doing this, you have to avoid the Pokemon's attacks by roll dodging out of the way. If you get hit too many times, your character will quite literally die. It's kinda crazy to be roll dodging and playing an action-filled boss fight within a Pokemon game. In the middle of the fight, you may end up staggering the boss. When this happens, you can quickly send out one of your own Pokemon to engage in a regular Pokemon battle with the noble Pokemon. If your battle is successful, you'll get a chance to throw some more bombs at it that will do more damage. You don't actually have to send your own Pokemon out though. There was one boss where I missed the stagger window to send my team out, but I still ended up beating the boss by continually tossing bombs until their health bar reached 0. If I could change one thing about these boss battles, it would be to make it so that the Pokemon battle is necessary to defeat the boss. I think it devalues the Pokemon team building aspect of the game when you can just defeat the boss without even using your Pokemon team. And this is a problem because the Pokemon team already feels pretty unimportant based on how weak the trainers already are. Overall, the frenzied boss battles do add a nice touch of originality to the game, and that does help give the Hisui region a bit more personality. Speaking of personality, I do want to take a second to touch on the slight lack of personality in the world design of this game. But before that criticism, I will say some positive things. And Legends Arceus does differentiate itself from the mainline Pokemon games in a very big way, by giving us the most vast exploration experience ever offered in a Pokemon game. And that's a plus. Gone are the days of traveling between towns on generic grassy routes. The open world is here. Kind of. I mean, there's still a world map with different sections we have to warp between, but it's as open world as we've ever gotten in Pokemon. To be truly open world, we would need to be able to travel between these map sections without going back to Jubilee City first. But I digress. The point is, we get to explore these different open sandboxes in the Hisui region and catch different types of Pokemon in all of them, which is more than we've ever really gotten before. Every time I progressed to a new section during my playthrough, I was always genuinely excited to see what different kinds of Pokemon would be available for me to catch there. It's kind of like what everyone wanted the wild area to be in Sword and Shield, which if you've played that game, you'll know it's kinda small for most people's liking. You get to traverse these different areas on the backs of some of the local noble Pokemon. Wire-Deer is your typical open world game horse, Ursalina sniffs out buried treasure, and Basculegion is your ticket to exploring the ocean.
And then you get Sneasler, who basically just carries you around in this wooden barrel on his back and scales cliffs for you. Sort of like how you climb the walls in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, actually. Having access to all of these different modes of transportation across the map really does make you feel pretty broken towards the end of the game, and that can be kind of fun, but on the other hand, it also makes the maps feel a lot smaller, because you can literally get from any point A to any point B on the map without worrying about any cliffs or water that might be in your way. These Pokemon are basically the replacements for HMs, or hidden moves from the traditional games, with Basculegion being Surf and Sneasler being Rock Climb.
All of this sounds fine and good, and for the most part, it is. But the main problem with this world is that for all the new areas we have to explore, it still just feels a little empty. I mean, just look at this shot here. It's a nice open grass field, lots of room to run around. It's very cool when you first walk into it, but then you realize that as far as you travel into it, you're always kind of just looping back through the same empty, grassy environments. There's variance in themes between the different areas on the map, like the mud area and the ocean area, but these areas all have the same problem. Outside of the wild Pokemon roaming the areas, there really isn't a whole lot to discover. There's an occasional little village where the Diamond and Pearl clans live, but that's kind of it. It's really just a huge field with Pokemon walking around. Games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild will reward you for wandering off the beaten path into a hidden cave to find treasure that you wouldn't have found if you didn't explore. In this game, exploration pretty much leads you nowhere. Maybe you'll find a few extra Pokemon along the way, but that's kind of it. All of this is on top of the fact that the graphics are mediocre at best. The textures look a little half-baked in a lot of these areas, and wait a minute, what is going on with those trees in the distance? But I don't want my criticisms of these graphics and this world design to take away from your potential enjoyment of this game, because these emptiness and graphical issues didn't take too much out of my enjoyment of this game. The new Pokemon catching mechanics were so satisfying to use that they almost fully made up for the game's faults, in my opinion. I would get sidetracked for hours at a time just catching wild Pokemon instead of completing the story tasks, which brings me to the final point I want to make about the features of this game that I would like to see reappear in future Pokemon titles. If they could take the Pokemon catching mechanics from this game and integrate them into a mainline game where we can still battle gym leaders, fight the Elite Four, defeat an evil organization, do all the good old-fashioned Pokemon things we normally do, I would be very, very happy. I would also like the towns in the mainline game to be connected by these open world-esque areas like we have in Legends Arceus, rather than the traditional route system we've had forever. Those boring routes are outdated. Let us keep this shiny new thing we've been given in Legends Arceus. Load those areas up with wild Pokemon, spruce up the hidden treasures in these areas a bit, and you've got yourself a perfect pastime for between gym battles and a mainline game. The catching mechanics and the world connection are really the only two things I think need to be kept. Don't get me wrong, I really like when Pokemon games get experimental and diverge from the mainline formula. Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness are two of my favorite games ever, and they're extremely non-traditional. But in future games, I could do without frenzied boss battles and prehistoric Pokemon society. These ended up taking away from a lot of the aspects that I usually find to be my favorite parts of Pokemon games, like building an extremely powerful team and getting to test its might by mowing through a series of challenging battles. Regardless of any of the criticisms I've given this game, everything in Pokemon Legends Arceus works for the story it's trying to tell, and it's truly the freshest Pokemon experience we've gotten in a very long time. If you're on the fence about buying this game, like I was, I would say go pick it up. I definitely had more fun with this than I had with the other recent Pokemon offerings on the Switch, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and for a lot of people, this could be their definitive Switch Pokemon experience so far. We can only hope that in the future we get a mainline Pokemon game that borrows the best aspects of this game and gives us the Pokemon experience many of us have been envisioning in our heads since we first dove into Pokemon Red and Blue on our Game Boys back in 1996. That's gonna do it for this one, folks. If you've stuck around till the end of the video, thanks so much for watching. Consider subscribing to the channel. We're trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year, and it would really help me out as I continue to work on more videos for you to enjoy. Now, please excuse me as I go prepare my dinner. Can you guess what it is? I bet you can't. Oh, there's a joke coming. There's a joke coming. It's potato mochi. Yeah, get it? Just like from the game, like how they eat potato mochi for every single meal. Oh, I hate myself.